Hey everybody, welcome back. For those of you racing cross country, you know that RockShox SID, it's a household name. This 32mm chassis has been used since 2016, but in 2020 RockShox introduced this, the 35mm Stanchions SID, which is still supposed to be a cross-country fork, but just a bit stiffer and better overall. Usually all the reviews give you information about the ultimate forks, not the Select or Select Plus. Here I have two Select forks. One is a 2020, one is a 2021. Why don't we take a look at them side by side? The 120mm SID in 2020 still had that 51mm offset as an option. However, the 2021 SID only comes in as a 29er and only comes in with 44mm offset. RockShox did that in redesigning the fork. What did they change? Pretty much everything with one exception. You see that Charger RL that existed in the Select forks before. That Charger RL is one of the options for the new versions also. Both the DSL that uses 32mm stanchions and 100mm travel, as well as the SID without DSL but has the beefier 35mm stanchions. Charger RL, it's a simplified, cheaper version of the older RLC. This RLC was replaced by the Charger Race Day in the ultimate version of the current SID forks. The Race Day damper only has an open, closed position and nothing in between. This older RLC also has the ability to adjust your open position by adding some compression over here. Charger RL can adjust that compression damping with 5 clicks, this being fully open to somewhat closed, and that is because this is not a full lockout as you would expect. The 2020 fork is no different in that regard. Add all the compression here and you're going to slow down or add a lot of compression. It makes it harder to compress, but definitely not a full lockout as you would expect from a cross-country fork. Otherwise, at the bottom of this right leg, you're going to find the rebound adjustment. You get 25 clicks here. Up top on the CSU, you have the serial number of the fork. You plug that into their trailhead application or website and you're gonna get all the details of this fork, upgrades, everything you want. You have your shredder valve underneath this little cap. Remove this top cap with a cassette tool and you can use volume spacers to adjust the way the air spring feels. These days RockShox talks about their DebonAir air spring, and this is one of those. You can see the max travel, which is a few millimeters from the full length of the stanchion. You get the sag gradients for 120 and the 110 fork. On the trailhead application or site, you're also going to get suggestions for pressure and rebound. That's also printed here at the back of your left leg. As expected, on the left leg you're going to get the mounts for your caliper. This works natively with 180mm discs, unlike other cross-country bikes. So if you want to install the 160mm discs, you would have to go for the SID SL, the 32mm stanchion. For more torsional stiffness of these forks, SRAM recommends using their torque caps. That's nothing more than wider end caps for your hubs, and that's why you have this bigger cutout on their forks around their axle. This fork is shipped with a Maxell through axle that requires that 6mm Allen to install and remove. If you're wondering about tire clearance, what I have in here is, yes, this is a Minion DHF, and this is a 2.5. I still have quite a bit of room around it, so I don't think tire clearance would be a problem for the current 120 SID. The old SID is not bad in that regard either. However, the new chassis has been worked on to shave weight, and you can see these cutouts here on the CSU, here at the bottom, on the lowers. Also, this arch, it's a lot skinnier compared to what we had on the old SID. And if you look carefully at this redesigned arch, you're gonna see 2 screw holes, one over there, one over here. They are meant to be used with this RockShox branded mudguard that actually looks pretty neat. It fits perfectly in here. This only works with the 35mm stanchion SID, not with the SID SL or the older generation. And I know that you guys care about weight. This SID Select with the 6.5 inches steerer comes up to 1665. If I add the through axle here, that makes it 1700 grams. And if you add the mud guard, here's your 1734. This 1700 would be about 150 grams lighter than a Rockshox Pike, for instance. That 1700 grams, it's pretty much the weight of the SID 120 with the 32mm stanchion, with the added benefit of this new chassis. That's pretty much a Mini PIKE lightweight fork. Before the weather turned bad, I had the chance to ride this fork a couple of times on my local trails. And even though this seemed to be a bit flexier fore aft compared to the bigger cousin, the Pike, overall the fork performed very well. I can't say that I was limited by its performance in any way. I was limited by the travel that it provides, but not the way it works. Definitely stiffer than the 32mm fork that it replaces, and overall this RL damper is really good. I wouldn't hesitate to buy it again. SRAM is going to offer new seal heads for the new SID and the previous generation, but in my experience, I don't know if this is going to make such a big difference. That fork seems pretty plush the way it is. I would say on par with the Pike that I compared with earlier. The new 35mm chassis feels better than the 32mm 120 that we had in 2020. So if I was to choose between these two forks, I think I would pick this one every time. That entry-level charger damper is actually really good. It's not different than what we had in the past, but remember, you can replace this with the charger race day and lose some grams in the process as well. In case you're wondering, yes, this is the fork that I used on that cheap carbon bike. It is a light trail bike or a downcountry bike if you want to call it that. This 120 SID works very well. Have you folks had a chance to look at this new 35mm SID? Are you interested in this cheaper Select, or you're looking for the more expensive Ultimate? Did you find this useful? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you have any questions, and until next time, hope to see you folks on the trails. Cheers, guys. Cheers.